My boyfriend verbally assaulted my best friend's boyfriend. My best friend is now distant and I don't know whose side to take. F them all honestly. 2 nights ago my best friend and her boyfriend came to mine and my boyfriend's house for dinner and drinks. I'll call them Jack and Jill, because they definitely went up the hill. This was the first time my boyfriend had met them. Everything was going fine at first. Jill and I were catching up, my boyfriend and Jack were having beers and talking football while my boyfriend manned the barbecue. While we were eating, Jack and Jill brought up that they are looking at rentals in the area. Jill wanted to be closer to her family and her job was one she could do remotely. I was ecstatic to get my best friend back in town. They said Jack was having a hard time finding work though and they needed 2 incomes to be able to afford a place in our area. Jack graduated with a political science degree. He said he'd applied to some local newspapers and some positions for the city. He also had applications with various campaigns and political groups. My boyfriend chimed in and said if Jack was interested he could work for him. My boyfriend runs a small car detailing company. He has 3 work vans that he outfitted for car detailing. Basically he drives to people's homes and cleans their cars. He's booked out months in advance. It's actually quite impressive and he makes good money. He offered to train Jack and pay him $24 an hour to start if Jack could commit to at least a year of working for him. Jack kind of scoffed at the offer and told my boyfriend he didn't spend tens of thousands on a degree to clean cars. Which I can understand. But it did come across as rude. My boyfriend said fair enough. But here's where I think my boyfriend took it to the next level. He asked Jack who was paying for the gas for their road trip. Jack didn't answer. He asked Jack who was paying for their food on the trip. Jack didn't answer. He asked him how they would get approved for a rental if he couldn't verify employment. Jack was visibly getting ticked off. I hinted to my boyfriend he needed to cut it out but he kept going with the questions and eventually Jill interrupted and said it was time for them to leave. This was the first time I'd seen her in a long time and they were supposed to crash at our place that night. Before they left she told me my boyfriend was an a-hole and she wouldn't be coming back if he was there. Boyfriend and I fought all night. I asked him why he couldn't just bite his tongue for the sake of keeping the peace and that everything was going great till that conversation. He told me Jack was pretentious wuss and he was trying to help my friends out by offering him a job. I told him it was a nice gesture but understood why Jack didn't want a blue-collar job making $24 an hour after spending a ton of money on college. He responded by telling me that a blue-collar job is why he's able to pay for this house and all your stuff. I work part-time, but he does cover most of our expenses. This was the first time he's ever thrown that in my face in our relationship. I called him an a-hole. He's been sleeping on the couch. It's been a bad vibe between us. I don't know how to approach the situation. Jill and I have been texting and she said I'm not coming around again unless my boyfriend apologizes to Jack. When I told boyfriend this he said Jack can go flip burgers and F off. I can't leave my boyfriend and I do love him. But I want to be able to hang out with my best friend, especially when she moves back. I don't know what to do. That night I messaged my best friend Jill and told her that we needed to meet in person, just us, and find a way to make this fall out right. She agreed and told me she had something to tell me. In hindsight I was not prepared for what she told me. We met at a local bar, just the 2 of us, and once again, I was not expecting things to go the way they did. Originally they were supposed to stay the night at our place the night of the barbecue. When they left after the incident they went to Jill's father's and stepmother's house. They weren't expecting them till the following night. When they asked what happened Jack and Jill told them about the job offer incident. And they didn't get the response they were expecting. Turns out, and I don't know how I didn't know this, my boyfriend has been detailing Jill's father and stepmother's cars once a month since before we were even together. They're a well-known real estate team in our area. My boyfriend does their show cars that they use to shuttle around prospective buyers when looking at properties. They had nothing but glowing things to say about my boyfriend. Jill said she told her father in private about the way in which Jack refused the job offer and his comment about not spending thousands on college to clean cars. She said her dad laughed in her face and said you know her boyfriend probably makes about as much as I do, if not more, right? Her dad told her how my boyfriend does almost everyone's cars in his office and that he's referred him to tons of people that he's sold homes to. When Jill told him that he offered Jack $24 an hour with a year-long commitment he told her that Jack would be a fool not to jump on it and that if he could still get the job they could live with them and save money during that year to put down on a place. He also told her that her and Jack's elitist attitude was troubling and that he raised her better and was disappointed in her. She said she felt like crap about how everything went down and seeing her dad look at her that way made her realize how in the wrong they were. My boyfriend verbally assaulted my best friend's boyfriend. My best friend is now distant and I don't know whose side to take. Jill said she was going to talk with Jack when she got home from our meetup and convince him to apologize together to my boyfriend and pray that my boyfriend will still offer Jack the job. I told her I wouldn't hold my breath if I was her and that even I felt like I was on thin ice. That night my boyfriend and I finally talked. I apologized profusely. I told him how wrong I was not to stick up for him. I told him I appreciated him and didn't mean to downplay his job or its importance to us. I told him it was his house and he should never have to listen to anyone disrespect him like that. Especially when he was offering his hospitality and trying to help them. Tears started flowing. As I spoke I realized that I had effed up really badly. Everything kind of became a blur and I started hyperventilating. I was begging him not to leave me and telling him I loved him. He put his arms around me and told me to relax while I bawled in his chest. I hadn't cried like that in a long time. I think the reality that he'd be well justified in kicking me out kinda hit me all at once. After I calmed down we sat down and he explained why he was so upset. He said he felt my reaction showed that I didn't understand how hard he works to provide us the life we have. He said he doesn't think I understand the struggles he endured to get to where he is. He told me that before he met me and his company was just getting off the ground, he basically lived in one of his work vans for 6 months. He maxed out multiple credit cards and borrowed money from his parents to start everything. He told me that when I said the just clean cars bit, that it really hurt him to hear me downplay his hard work. This hurt me so much to hear. I told him I'm just a stupid, spoiled girl and I was so sorry. I told him I didn't know about his hardships before meeting me. He'd never talked about them. He said, well, now you know. I nodded and told him something like this will never happen again. He slept in the bedroom that night and we had amazing intimacy till the early morning hours. The next morning Jill reached out to my boyfriend on Facebook. She asked if she and Jack could come over and talk. He, to my surprise, said yes. They came over that evening. There was an awkward tension you could almost touch. Jill was the first one to talk. She said that she didn't know my boyfriend did her dad's and stepmom's cars. My boyfriend replied with a yep. With a poop-eating grin. Jill said they had nothing but good things to say about him and that they didn't mean to disrespect him and they really appreciated the offer. She said she felt like he was trying to humiliate Jack and she was just sticking up for her boyfriend. When she said that, my boyfriend briefly shot me a look as if to say like you should have. I felt a little sting. He said he understood, and that he felt like he was being looked down on and was just trying to make a point. But that he took it too far. He actually apologized. This is where things took a wrong turn. Jill looked at Jack and said, is there anything you want to say, babe? Jack apologized and asked if the offer still stood. Again, to my surprise, my boyfriend said it did if he could commit to a year. Jack said he had 2 questions. Can he leave if he finds a job in his field and gives 30 days notice? Boyfriend said yes. The next wasn't a question, but more of a demand, and it didn't go well. He said he wouldn't work weekends. Jill looked puzzled and said what? My boyfriend said that wasn't possible. He said the weekends are money makers and working at least Saturdays would be a must. He told Jack on a given Saturday he'd make over $100 in cash tips on top of wages. Jack said he didn't think he could accept the offer then. Jack and Jill started fighting between themselves. They got more and more heated with Jill explaining if they were gonna move then they didn't have a choice and him working Saturdays wouldn't be a big deal and they needed the money. Jack said he needed Saturdays for downtime to job hunt online for jobs in his field. Jill eventually gave up, thanked my boyfriend and said they needed to leave. As they left my boyfriend couldn't help himself and said, you know Jill, if you want some work on the side, you can come work for me on Saturdays. I'll pay you cash under the table and you can keep your tips, you'd probably make a killing. She got a big poop-eating grin, turned to Jack, then back to my boyfriend and said, you know what? I just might. I really might take you up on that. Thank you for the offer. For some reason I think she was being dead serious. When they were gone my boyfriend turned to me and said I don't think we'll be seeing Jack again. I replied I think he might be right. An hour later Jill texted me and told me she's going to break up with Jack when they get back home and she's gonna move in with her parents. She asked if boyfriend was serious about the offer. All in all, this was eye-opening and I think we're closer now.